We can't always be amazing.
I know.
It wouldn't
That's
be
true.
fair to the other podcasts
if we were just
we were
always
just on all the time.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spreads along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so we just finished watching the South Korean horror, The Wailing. And that's wailing as in like crying, not like as in harpooning whales.
Right. Correct.
Which my husband did ask me.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a fair question.
What type of wailing?
So it was 2016. And basically there's this really small village, and one of the main guys is a police officer, and he investigates this mysterious person that's come to town. And like all these vicious murders and weird things start happening. So it just kind of follows this guy investigating that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is a journey.
It is. And also, like, look, we're just going to come out right out the gate. It is a long movie. It is over 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know us, you know we love our 90-minute movies. So
we really do.
This was quite the commitment.
Yes.
Worth it, in my opinion. But make sure you set aside time.
2.5 hours. Also, it is it's South Korean. And so you're either, I don't know if either of you watched it dubbed or you both did subtitles.
I did subtitles.
I don't think I even had dubbed as an option.
Okay, I always turn that off even if it is. So I just did subtitles.
So you have to be engaged the whole time.
Yeah, you can't really check out of this movie. You have to watch it.
So had either of you watched it before?
I had never even heard of this before we brought it up.
So Laura, this was your pitch, right?
Yeah, somehow this one kept popping up on like various social medias of like recommended movies or lists of good movies or some of the top horror movies or scariest ones. So it just kept coming up here and there. I kept finding it over the last like year or so. And so I thought we should give it a shot because people say it's good.
Yeah. No, I'm honestly kind of surprised none of us had heard about it before or watched it before.
Right.
It's good. I mean, again, not to spoil how I felt about the movie, but like it's very good.
No, it is.
It's very well done.
And it's like a very well done movie. So like, yeah, I'm surprised that I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's got a lot of themes of like pretty solid and interesting horror movies and themes that I feel like shouldn't combine. So I wasn't expecting zombie meets exorcism. Or like The Exorcist, like I wasn't expecting those two things. Meet serial murderer, those three things to combine is very unique to me.
Yeah, no, I feel like the beginning of this movie, and you know, I feel like we also like to just not look up things about movies. So I didn't look up anything about the movie. The most I saw was like the little preview that started playing before I bought the movie, to watch it. So at the very beginning of the movie, I thought it was a zombie movie. Like I did too. That's where I expected it to go. But like, the story progresses, and even though I just watched it, I already want to rewatch it because now knowing what's actually happening, I feel like you would catch so much more. You know?
Yeah, because again, we'll get to it, but this is one of those movies where it ended, and I was like, I don't really understand what's happening. Like I was left very perplexed, being like, I think I need to watch this again because I don't know what just happened.
I don't know which conclusion I think is the conclusion of the movie.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's multiple options here.
Yeah.
So I feel like we should just kind of start at the beginning, right?
Yes.
We get the intro of the man fishing, like just kind of like a serene scene.
Yeah, the scenery in this movie in general, but especially the beginning, just some of the scenery, I was like, wow, okay, well, we've got to go to South Korea. Like, this just looks amazing.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. So some of the scenes where they're driving and doing stuff, like, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the music was also really pretty. It was like very, very peaceful. Yeah.
And then it gets really unpeaceful very quickly.
Yes.
We're immediately taken to the scene of a crime, right? We meet the police that are coming to investigate, and they're kind of talking about, what they're going to talk, like come across, and we just immediately get hit with a person that I thought was dead.
Right.
Yes.
But we realize is actually the one who did the killing. And he's
Yes.
like, the scenery is beautiful. The makeup and visual effects department in this movie went so hard.
So
Because
good.
The guy is like, he's covered in these I don't even know. It's like,
They're
you see
like
all his
blistered
veins. He has all these blisters.
sores,
Like,
and his eyes were,
Mhm.
yeah, because he's kind of
Yeah.
like slumped up against the pole on the porch,
Mhm.
and like you can just see in the room behind that there's just blood everywhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
and you're like, what? And you think the one guy is dead, but he's not. So no, it was
mhm.
it was a shock.
Yeah.
And they mentioned that there's 2 corpses, I think, in this scene.
Mhm.
Yeah, in my notes, I just wrote, oh God, he's alive. I thought he was one of the victims. And I wrote, is this a zombie movie? Like, I was like,
Mhm.
that's has to be what's happening here.
Mhm. But yeah, so then they handcuff him thinking, or because he's the one that did it. And as they handcuff him, also just like all those blood and blisters that he had, like it just looked so freaking painful. being
Yeah, it
put in
was
those handcuffs.
It was graphic
Yeah.
for sure.
And then, that's our first and second death.
Mhm.
I think those 2 corpses.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also get a scene where it jumps to, or it goes over these plants that I had to look them up because I forget which plants are these plants, but they're the ones where the little buds look like skulls.
Yeah.
I love those plants so much. They're snapdragons.
Is that it?
Yes, I just looked it up because I was like, wait, what are those plants? Yeah, they're
Well, and it was like hanging from the door frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, I couldn't.
Yeah. They were, they did kind of like, they focused on it. Like it was hanging.
Yeah, they made it look
somewhere.
like it was just like over the entryway or something. So you were
Mhm.
instantly curious.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
apologize. My memory might be a little funny. I watched this a while ago and then I got sick. And so you guys might need to correct my memory on some things this movie.
I honestly, I think this movie just needs a rewatch, like in
I know.
general. Like I've already
agree.
decided I'm going to rewatch this movie. Like I think we're going to miss things
Mhm.
when talking about
Well,
it.
yeah, and we won't do like a play-by-play because there are.
Mhm.
3 hours.
I don't think it needed to be the length that it was,
Mhm.
to be honest.
Yeah.
So there's some repetitive moments. So we'll just highlight the general
Yeah.
process of the
Yeah.
movie.
So I think it's the scene that's right after this. So this movie, I feel it just feels spooky. Like I
Yes.
was just scared while I
It's
was
super
watching
rainy.
it.
Yep,
I was
like
so
this
thankful
scene.
that I had to read to like the captions to
Mhm.
distract myself, because I think it's one of the next scenes where we get the story of the guy
Mhm.
in the forest.
Yes.
I just remember the scene. It's like of the guy chasing like a deer, and there's like a dead deer that the
Mhm.
guy is eating.
Yeah, like Voldemort
Yeah.
style. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
And
And he's
I
naked except for like a diaper.
yeah.
Like a
Mhm.
cloth.
Mhm.
Diaper
And then
is
we
what they
see
call
him,
it.
and he has like bright red, like his
Mhm.
entire eyeball is just bright red.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we get this like whole spooky story, and then it cuts to the police station.
Cops.
Where it's like it was actually just a story that the cops were telling each other,
Right.
Mhm.
but then it just gets spookier. Like again, it's
Mhm.
like this is actually a scary movie.
It is.
Like
Yeah,
if you
it
want to be afraid, watch this
Mhm.
movie. I was scared the whole time.
The only other thing I think happened kind of before we saw the man with the eating the deer was that I believe it was the guy who was the murderer. They went back to investigate his house, and in his house he had like the bird nest shrine
yes.
thing.
Yes.
I still don't get what the nest is.
I don't either.
I don't understand.
I don't
Like,
understand the nest.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing it's part of the ritual of
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
that we'll discover later because we'll see another nest again.
We will,
Mhm.
yes.
But
it was
yeah, it
so,
was just
like,
this
It was just such a
creepy.
cool murder scene. Or no, maybe it was
Yeah.
at the house where the murders happened is where we see the nest. But yeah, we see this.
Yeah.
We see the nest, and I think maybe the bodies are in it or something, and it's so spooky.
But it's
Mhm.
like human size.
It's a human
yeah,
sized
it's
nest.
giant.
Like it's a giant.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's maybe just part of the ritual, the haunting, the events that are occurring. Maybe it's just part of the setup, but it was creepy. And then after we get to the police station where it's like, oh, just kidding. It was just a story.
Right.
They're like, just kidding. There's a woman outside the police station.
This naked, bloody woman. That scared me.
That scared me
They showed
too.
her.
Because their electricity went out. And they made it seem like that happened. So it wasn't actually that like weird. But yeah, then all of a sudden we see the woman outside. And they go to get to the door. And by the time they get there, she's gone.
She's gone. It's just back to back spookiness in this movie. I thought I was getting a break.
I know.
The cop has a dream. He has a nightmare.
Yes.
And I think I kind of wrote down the dreams in a separate section. So you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, later that night, his dream is that he's being attacked by the man who was eating the raw animals. And in his dream, the part that really freaked me out was the man with just how bloody his eyes were. It was so scary in the dream.
No, the eyes were terrifying in this movie.
Because we've kind of got these two scenes that are happening at this, in the same storyline. Like we go back and forth from the police and doing their investigations and they're, at the station. And then we've got the main police officer and his home, like when he goes home and he's got a young daughter and a wife and a mother there or mother-in-law. So we see these two storylines happening next to each other.
Yeah. And then do we get a second kind of murder scene? In my notes I just wrote, man, these guys just can't catch a break.
Yeah.
So there's another scene and there is a huge fire that has happened. And I think several people in the home die. And but there's someone who's not fully dead, but who's very badly burned. And the cop realizes, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the cop realizes that she was the naked, bloody woman from the night before, because she had dropped her barrette when she was at the police station. So he realizes this woman who was acting real shady last night already, now she's involved in this other scene. Something's up.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this one is a real side tangent, and I don't know when this happened. And to me, it had nothing to do with the rest of the movie, really. Well, maybe it did. I take that back. Maybe it did. But there's a scene where we see the cop in the car with a woman, and I could not tell if this was his wife or not. I don't think it was. And they were having sex.
Oh, yeah.
It was his wife.
No, I don't think it was. I really don't. I don't think it was his wife.
Well, it's hard because when you're reading all the subtitles, it was such a quick scene of her.
Well, and then what happens is the daughter, Kat, is there. She knocks and he freaks out and then he goes and buys her a bunch of stuff. He wouldn't have done that if it was his wife because that just would have been catching mom and dad.
Well, yeah, but that can be traumatizing, seeing your parents.
I think it was someone else.
I feel like if it was your parents, though, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, don't tell anyone about this. I'm going to go buy you a bunch of stuff."
Exactly, and even later in the movie, they talk about his sins that he's committed, and I was like, "Oh, maybe that's." So that's thrown in there, as kind of it's a kind of a strange scene because it doesn't really seem to have much to do with anything else, but. I think it gets brought in later.
Maybe it's just to kind of point out that he's a sinner because religion and sin and belief and faith and stuff is a big part of the movie. So maybe it's just to show that he's got some demons in his closet.
Yeah.
I bet that's what it is.
Yeah.
So then there's the firehouse and then
we get our third death at this point. Well, there's several people that die in the fire. So, but then we get our third on-screen death because then the woman who had been outside naked and then was burned, then she is hanged.
Yeah,
hanged.
Yeah, by a tree.
And that's a reoccurring thing where it's a character who was seen doing something will later be a victim or possessed or which is why I want to rewatch it. I'm going to keep saying that. But I feel like there are probably a lot more connections than what I caught in the first watch. Because I think a lot of the characters you end up seeing in one scene and then you realize that's who's taking action in the next. I think
Yes.
they're more connected.
I agree.
So I feel
Yeah,
like through go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because they also discover, because then I think that they're maybe thinking that the woman who is hanged, that she had something to do with the fire or the deaths of the people, because they discover that the people that died in the fire, they all had been stabbed first. So it wasn't just a fire that killed them. This was a murder that then the fire covered up. And I said something about, well, okay, so then they say that the woman who did this, they blame that she had had a trauma. They say that she had been sexually assaulted by this Japanese man that lives in the town, or outside of the town, I guess, in the woods outside the town. And that she then went crazy from it, or maybe she ate like weird bad mushrooms or something. But they kind of blame the situation on the Japanese man and maybe the mushrooms.
And maybe
because they like go to a dermatologist because of the rashes, and they're trying to like understand. And I think that's when the dermatologist is like, "Oh, it's mushrooms." Like,
and I think even
the
in,
cop
like,
is
news
like,
stories, they're like,
the cop is
"Oh,
like,
it was
no,
mushrooms."
it's not. Right.
Yeah. So throughout all of this, we start getting hints of. I mean, it's just straight like xenophobia. Like they call him the Jap in the captions. Like it's like, oh, this Japanese man showed up, and all these bad things started happening. It's definitely him.
And because you can tell that it's like a small village, so like everyone knows everyone, and he lives out in the mountain, like in the woods, so he's very removed.
Yeah. And then we see that, like he's the one in these visions and stories of, he's the one that's like the man in the diaper eating the raw deer, raw flesh of the deer.
But that's juxtaposed with our introduction of him, of just being this calm, peaceful guy fishing.
Exactly.
So there, we immediately are questioning what he is and who he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, because of like the racism, right? It's like, oh yeah, he's just, it's like, oh look, this foreigner came in. Let's blame him for the murders.
Like, of course it's him.
So it's like, it very divided on him throughout the movie. And I think that's very much so intentional.
Yes.
Agreed.
So I don't know if this is jumping too far ahead, but at one point, the cop's daughter starts exhibiting symptoms.
Yes.
I think she starts having the nightmares that we've seen other people have, and she starts getting the rash.
Yes.
And it's like small at first.
And like, she's just not herself, because we had seen her earlier and she's just this really sweet young girl. Like she's probably like 8 or something. And all of a sudden she's like really grumpy and really like mean and
like violent.
Like she's just not herself. And you can tell that her parents are like, well, maybe it's the fever. Like, they're trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
She's like swearing like a sailor, like the mouth on this little girl.
Woo.
I know.
I'm sure we'll talk about it again, but the little girl's acting is incredible.
So good.
That was the biggest thing that Laura and I left this movie with.
Yeah.
Like,
when she cries, my heart breaks. Like when she screams, I am filled with terror. Like she's so good.
She is such an amazing actress.
Yeah.
No, she's crushing it. I'm sure we'll keep talking about it as we get into the later scenes. But so we get kind of the mystery, which I feel like is where I came back in. Because at the beginning I was like, this is too spooky. I hate it. There's too much gore. The visual effects are too good.
Yeah, we had sent Yvette a warning. Because Laura and I watched it together. We sent her a warning like, Yvette, this is going to be hard for you. Get ready.
But I feel like then you get this kind of like, but there's a mystery on our hands, right? Like, how are we going to solve it? You're trying to like follow the cops. And at one point they decide to bring in a shaman.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So I think they went to his house first, because they had a few visits where they went to his house. I think the Japanese man, I think they did that, and then they called the shaman, because then his daughter got worse. And the mother-in-law was like, you need to call this shaman.
Yes.
Okay, and like when we went to the Japanese man's house, that was an intense scene. But I had one very important question, and I tried Googling it. I could not find But like, do they not have guns? The cops?
Oh, the Korean police?
Yeah, like why didn't their two Korean police, why didn't they have a gun?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was definitely not an American cop
Because I was like,
investigation.
This all could have been solved if
Yes.
Because one gets attacked by a dog.
With gun.
Well, and so I think one thing that happens that okay, so the cops basically they want to go and investigate the Japanese man. And I think it's that there's a man like a village man who knows where they live. And so he says, "Well, I'll take you. I know where he is. I'll show you where his house is." And as they're walking to this house, this man like he's getting kind of spooked and he doesn't want to keep going anymore. And then he gets struck by fucking lightning.
Lightning. Yeah. Straight up lightning.
That scene was wild.
It was wild. So, yeah, not a good sign, like an omen. Like, not good. So yeah, he gets scorched by lightning. And then I also wrote at this time, I think when they're I think maybe what happens is that then they leave or something because the man gets scorched by lightning. Then a few other mysterious things happen before they go back to the Japanese man's house.
Because they come back with the priest that speaks a little Japanese.
Right. Okay.
Japanese, yeah.
So he's he came to be the interpreter.
And the guy who gets struck by lightning, they take him to the hospital.
Yes.
And that scene I had to look away from because again, this movie,
I knew you would have to.
It kept bringing me in, and then I had to put the pillow in front of my face. So you guys are gonna have to tell me what happened. Because
okay, so it was insane. He's on his bed, and he just starts kind of like convulsing, and like his back is like convulsing, and then I don't know how to describe it other than like he implodes from the inside out. Like he literally his like bones explode out of his chest and break internally, and it causes him to like regurgitate gallons of blood.
Yes. Well, so I actually thought that the person who exploded from the inside out, because that's exactly how I wrote it as well. I actually thought that was the murder suspect who was in the hospital at the same time.
Oh, was it?
As the man who got struck by lightning. Yes. I think it was him that exploded. But again, it's hard when you're like,
there's a lot happening.
There's bandages and blood, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, and they literally don't look like people because like they're just disgust. So it's like
they're covered in like blisters. Like that's it. Their entire body is like blistering.
Yeah.
It's the only way to describe it. Also, I just looked away. So I couldn't tell you who it was.
And then I wrote down the only other thing that happens before we have then the nephew who speaks Japanese go with them is that the daughter has a nightmare.
Yes.
And then the only other dream I think I wrote down, I wrote down two more dreams. One was that there's banging on the door, and I don't know if that was the daughter's nightmare.
Oh,
yeah. Do you remember? I wrote down the
daughter's.
That might have been the daughter's banging on the door. And then there was another nightmare that someone has where a face comes out of a wall. I'm just mentioning these if we talk about them later. But yeah, so then they decide because more things are happening with people. They're seeing blisters
and the daughter is getting worse.
The daughter's getting worse. So they're like, no, we're going to go back. And now we've got to talk to the Japanese
this guy.
Man.
Right.
And is this when then there's the scene with like the dogs and we were curious why there's no guns?
Yeah. And then we see like some crazy stuff in the guy's house.
See the photos.
Because like they even mention, because at this point the main cop is getting more upset about his daughter, and they know that they don't have like a search warrant or however their process works, but he's like, no, we're just going in. And they do. And the two guys go into two different rooms, each equally weird.
The thing that struck me in the man's house, because so much stuff was creepy, but there was this mask that he had.
Yes.
That was so scary. It was just very eerie. Yeah. And then, there's like pictures of all the dead. Like there's pictures of them when they're alive, and then there's pictures of them when they're like bloody and dead.
Yeah, like in worsening effects,
And then also some of their stuff.
Yes.
And he recognizes a
shoe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the partner that's like, isn't this the daughter's name Shu?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, I feel like they were already angry when they arrived.
And
that
this did him.
That set him off.
Mhm.
Yeah. So after they see this, the Japanese man comes back.
Yes.
And like him in the scene, he is just no reaction. The Japanese man. Just no reaction to what's happening. He's just like standing there hearing this and like minimal response, just blank.
Says nothing.
Because
their emotions, the emotions of the cop and the nephew, well, the nephew's trying to like mediate, but like the emotions of the cop where he is like, I mean, he's desperate to help his daughter who he doesn't know what's happening with her. And so he's just super angry and upset and emotional. And I think it just makes it worse that the Japanese man just like will not react.
Yeah. When he tries to ask him, like, what are you doing here? Like, what's happening? And he just says, like, you wouldn't believe me even if I told you. Like, you wouldn't believe it anyway. And so he's like, okay, literally straight to jail or like just leave or, you know, just, I mean, at this point, he's like, I'm so done with you breaking all the rules.
Right. And I you can tell in the house that it's set up like an altar in the one room. So like, obviously there's something, but they leave, I think, to go get like more resources and maybe like officially be allowed to come back, you know, because then they come back. Isn't this right? And then everything's gone.
Well, but yeah, during that, that's when he attacks his dog, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, just hate to see that.
I know.
Back-to-back movies where the dogs die. Come on, guys.
I know.
What are we doing?
And this one, like, if this is a hard thing for you, like, it's really stretched out. Like, they spend some time attacking this dog, and just again, the sound effects are...
The whole movie is very haunting. They do a good job of like building tension because during the whole interaction, we get scenes of the dog being tied up and starting to react. And, you know, you see the chain getting pulled. So like the whole time that this is happening, you're like, oh, the dog's going to attack, or like they've built tension.
Because he's protecting, he's protecting his owner's house. Like they're in there, like, you know, wreaking havoc and
it looks like a mean dog. Like this is a big, this looks like the kind of dog that could do damage.
Right. I think he looks like a sweet dog, but one that would
no, but I mean, he looks like he could tear your face off.
If angry, would tear your face off.
You know, Chihuahuas don't give the same energy, but
not so much. Not so much.
But yeah, so he kills the dog.
Yeah.
And he like, I think like wrecks his property too. I'm pretty sure he just throws things around. Like it is just
and
high strung, high stress.
And the worst part for me is like when he kills the dog, like he very much hurts the dog.
Yes.
And then the
dog is not dead.
Is dying.
Not
dead. And then like these crows come and are starting to pick at the dog. And it's just like it's
dragged out.
It is it's brutal.
Yeah. I feel like that's the thing with the deaths in this movie is like there were so many times that I thought something was dead and then it's like, nope, not dead, just probably slowly dying.
Yes.
Yep. In a horrific way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they go back, right? To like they're back home and the daughter's starting to have more of a toot, even more.
Yeah. And so I think this is where we finally get the shaman, right?
Yeah. Because like the dad confronts the daughter and then just her attitude at this point, it was so bad. This is when the swearing is like intense from her. And I was like, dang, like, and then the dad finds her journal and there's really upsetting things that she has in her journal. And so, I think they're like at this point, this is like exorcist level behavior.
Because it looks like the journal of a possessed person, not the journal of a young girl. Like, Okay, so now when the shaman comes in, things start to happen. Because the movie is a little slower in the beginning, I feel like, the pacing.
Yeah.
Like, a lot's happening. But I feel like once we get to this point, it's a continuous ride.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and like I don't know if the order of all of this is correct, but when things start to go south at some point, the cops family, I think it's the cops family, gets a disemboweled goat.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is put on, like, hanging from their front porch.
Well, because I thought it was the dog.
Because it was right after the dog had died.
Yeah, it did
It was
kind of
not.
look like. That was a goat.
So it was because it was right after the dog died. We're like, oh, so maybe this is because this is like the retribution for them killing the Japanese man's dog. Now he's putting this goat up. Then the cop all of a sudden can't move. Like, he can't move his legs. So he has to go to acupuncture to try to, like, get his legs moving again. Like, it clearly seems there has been a curse put on their house.
Yes.
And then at some point during all of this, and yeah, again, you go watch the movie. We're not going to be perfect with our timeline, but there's a woman in white. And, like, I feel like it's around this time that we see her for the first time.
I think we saw her earlier.
Okay,
after
we maybe
the
even
house
saw her earlier.
Burnt down. Wasn't she the one throwing stones?
Yes, she was. She was.
Yes, that's when we first saw her. She was. That was okay. We should talk about that scene a little bit because so they're investigating that house burning, and there's just this woman in white, and she's kind of like there's like a hill to kind of get to the house, and she's a little bit down the hill, and the cops are just kind of like staked out, I think, and she just gets these pebbles. And she just starts throwing it to them, like, I think to get their attention or something, or to get them to talk to her. But they kind of just ignore her.
Right.
And then she just keeps throwing it. And I love the scene where then I think they show more of, like, the investigation or what had happened. And then they show the cops again who are, like, in their little chairs, like, waiting outside the scene. And they're just surrounded by pebbles all near them. Because she's just been throwing so many rocks. It's like, girl, just go talk to them, or cops just go say, stop throwing rocks.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What do you want?
That would seem strange to me, so I would maybe question her, but
right?
Yeah.
She is there.
We don't get much from her, I feel like, for the first bit of the movie.
No, we do not.
Yeah.
She's kind of there in the background.
So what I have is the next thing that happens after this stuff starts to happen at Cop's house is that at one point, I forget why, but girl needs a babysitter while mom and dad are focused on other things. And the little girl murders the babysitter.
Why do I have spaced that out? Why do I have
no idea what you're talking about?
The little girl murders the babysitter, you guys.
And that was before the exorcism?
Yes, it's before well, okay, maybe she doesn't kill her, but I said.
Oh, no, never mind. I remember.
She stabs her, then she's crying, and then that's when then the shaman gets pulled in. And so then the shaman is there, like, dealing with the family, and they're trying to figure out, what to do with the girl. But I'm thinking to myself, how is this little girl who just murdered her babysitter not in custody? Why is it just like, just call the shaman, let's see if we can counsel her or something? She just killed somebody.
She just killed someone.
I mean, I'm remembering it now. And I also,
because I was like, oh God, have I hallucinated that?
Just made up.
I do get the vibe that, like, this is an extremely small village. Yeah. So, like, these two cops that were with her are probably,
that's it.
There's probably not much more than that. So, like, I think part of it too is that, like, he's handling it on his own because it's his family, and, like, there's not that many resources anyways.
Right.
So that could be part of it.
Yeah. No, I think so.
Yeah.
Because then I think that's why it's, when the shaman comes in, because this murder from the girl has happened, they're like, okay, we got to do the exorcism for her. We got to get this demon out, or we got to get this curse off of your family. And this is when, before the ritual starts, this is when we see the scene. I think, like, the shaman is he's kind of near their place, and he's trying to investigate his surroundings and see
he's
what's
like
going
sussing out the situation.
Yes. And there's these two big barrels that are chilling outside. And he asks them, he's like, oh, what's in those barrels? And they say soy sauce. which is where I wrote down, this is an excessive amount of soy sauce.
That's
It's
the
a
only
lot
note.
of soy sauce.
That's the only note that I took for this entire movie was about the soy sauce.
That's a lot of soy
Like
sauce.
it is these barrels are like, when you see like wine barrels, like these big ass barrels of wine, like it's that level, but it's just filled with soy sauce. And they're like, well, that's just our standard supply of soy sauce.
Right.
That's all that is.
It's like for the town.
I know.
Right? And he's like, no, something's up with the soy sauce. And so he does he like shoot
I think they're clay pots, so I think he just breaks it.
Yeah, he tells him, he's like, bring it over. Like
right.
that one.
I think they're just like clay.
There's like a group and it's like, okay, yeah, bring that one over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I couldn't tell if he like shot like what's the word for the thing that you pull back and then shoot the rock from it?
Slingshot?
Slingshot. I couldn't tell if it was that or okay, so anyway, he busts it open and all the soy sauce comes spilling out. And there's a dead crow in it.
Yes.
Now this is where I was inspired because Spooky Sippers, if you don't know this about me, which I'm not sure why you would, but I love soy sauce. I love soy sauce. One of my favorite snacks is like microwave popcorn with soy sauce on it.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
So good. So we were inspired and I quickly Googled soy sauce cocktail on a whim. And the official Kikkoman website has one.
I love that it's like the Kikkoman like soy sauce. Like that's the website we're using to get this cocktail.
So Yvette made it. I still haven't made it because I didn't have all the ingredients. So we'll let Yvette tell you what she is sipping on.
Yeah. I feel like if you like martinis and you like soy sauce, like Brianna, like I feel like you kind of have to make it. So if you're sipping along with us, you're going to want 35 milliliters of gin, 35 milliliters of Martini Rosso, 15 milliliters of Maraschino Liqueur, and a teaspoon of soy sauce or more if you're a big soy sauce fan.
I might just do a full shot of soy sauce in there. Yeah. How is it?
So I don't like martinis.
Okay.
So I also don't like gin. So maybe I'm not like the best one to be giving feedback on this cocktail.
I should have made it because I love gin and soy sauce.
So you can taste every ingredient.
Okay.
Is what I'll say.
For you, that's not a good thing.
And if you like those ingredients, this might be a pleasant experience for you. If you are maybe not the biggest fan of these ingredients, it might just be like a martini.
I'm curious about, the maraschino liqueur with the soy sauce combo.
Yeah, to me, I just taste them both individually. Like, when you have a drink and it's like you kind of get the layers.
The layers, yeah.
To me, I get them individually. Like, I taste the maraschino liqueur, which I do like. Actually, I think that improves this. I think I actually like this more than a regular martini, just because the flavors are a little different. So you can taste it. All of it is what I'll say.
I will make it and I will report back. And we'll see.
Yeah, I didn't get to make it either because I have everything except the maraschino liqueur. But that sounds good to me. Like
it's a pretty color.
It is it's like amber.
Yeah, no, like it's a really pretty color.
Yeah,
like I really like savory martinis. Like I like dirty martinis or all like the like the onions, like the pickled onion martinis. Like I like all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we're like kind of at showdown.
The ritual.
Now at this point, I believe, Laura, if I'm remembering correctly, you and I had a shared thought where we both turned to each other and we were like, "Wait, is this what's happening?" Because so far, like you don't really know who this Japanese man is, and I think it's at this point before that Laura and I are like, "Oh wait, shit! Do you think he's actually like?" here to reverse what happened to her and he's actually here to like help her.
Yeah.
That's what I thought at this point.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh man, maybe he's actually the good guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I feel like the movie makes you sympathize with him.
It does.
And it makes you wonder again, maybe he's actually here to help. And I feel like especially at the beginning, they're referring to him as a ghost.
Yes.
Like they're like, he's a ghost that's come to town. So like, you know that he's maybe some sort of spiritual being, some sort of ghostly figure. Like, but you don't know if he's good or bad yet. Like, you really don't know.
No, you really don't.
Right? So, all of this has gotten so bad that they're like, okay, this requires something extreme. And they say they're going to do a death hex.
It's serious.
Yeah.
This thing. Like, there's a lot of people involved, a lot of like pomp and circumstance. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And the shaman is, I mean, it's a long scene, but like he is giving it 1000%. Like it is like, I believed him, you know, like he,
because he's kind of a quiet guy. Otherwise, like he's pretty like, you know, kind of just not shy, but he's just a quiet guy. So this is like, he's doing his performance.
Also, he's hot. He's a hot shaman.
He's very cute.
Yeah.
So we need to address that.
It's true. He is. He's a fine-looking shaman.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
But one of the things we learn before he starts this is like, hey, this is going to be really intense. We can't stop it once it starts.
Right.
Once you start, we have to finish it. Very
and
important.
It's just the mom and the mother or mother-in-law that's with the little girl, because they're like outside doing it and she's in her room, and the mom and mother-in-law are with her.
And this is when, like, as he's going through the ritual, the little girl's screams in pain and just agony were so good. She needs to win an Oscar. Like, this little girl's performance was 12 out of 10. So good.
It was so good.
I agree.
So good. Well, and that it's at the same time that we're getting the death hex.
Yes.
We see the Japanese man do his own ritual.
He has hanging chickens.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing his own thing.
Yeah. They look kind of similar-ish, the rituals.
They really do.
You know, but they're happening. We see them kind of at the same time. And yeah, I feel like because like the shaman also kills chickens.
Yes.
In his thing, which, again, too realistic. The virtual effects people, you did too good of a job.
No, they really, and this was in 2016.
Like, a little more fake.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, much like an exorcism, the little girl is like, hey, this is painful. Like, she's screaming.
And she just looks excruciated. Like, it is, it's an intense.
Yeah. And finally, the dad goes in to check on her. And she's like, make him stop. Like, please make him stop.
Yeah, he freaks out.
And, you know, to all of us that have seen 1,000 exorcism movies, it's like, that's exactly what the devil would want you to do.
Exactly. Well, and it seems like what it feels like is happening too, because then they keep cutting back between the two scenes. It seems like the two rituals are happening: the good versus bad, the one trying to banish the ghost and the one trying to like possess the girl. Like, it's it's so good.
Well, I told Laura, I was like, the shaman should at least have a small team so that like one of his people could be in there to be like, no, you have to let it finish, you know?
Right?
Oh.
But
and this is what I wrote. So intense, blood face, nails and statue. I don't know what that means.
Oh, I think all of that was part of the ritual.
Oh yes, the nails. Like, he has this big wooden statue.
Thing.
Okay, that's right.
And he's got these giant stakes, like nails.
And it's like a dramatic hit on like these nails. And every time he does it, the little girl just like screams out in pain
and like grabs the part of her body that it was on. And like she's being stabbed.
Yes.
And the dad can't take it.
The dad can't do it.
Which, I mean, it's fair.
Can't
you know,
it.
Like, they shouldn't let the parents be in there for that.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So he stops the ritual right before the end. And it seemed like, so we had been seeing the shaman like nail the certain, or, you know, hammer the certain nails into the statue over and over. And like, he had already finished so many of them. And it seemed like he was just a couple hits away from finishing the ceremony before the dad was like, nah, you got to be done.
Yeah.
Oh, and then right after this happened is when I wrote down my favorite quote of the movie, but I don't remember where this one came from. Cross your heart or your mother's a whore.
You know what? I remember that scene, but I don't remember the context either. Like, I think it's just like
town people talking afterwards.
Yeah.
They're like, cross your heart or your mother's a whore.
Right.
That's amazing. I think that's like the cop talking to his friends or like some cop buddies talking about like they're telling a story and he's like not believing him. So that's why he says that. But
Right.
I'm going to start using that line.
It's a good line.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, we're like, all right, they're going to go back to the Japanese man.
Yeah, into the woods.
They're back into the woods. And so they get like a group of guys.
Yeah, it's like a team.
Like a whole team. It's like, all right, come on, team. We're going to go. We're going to take care of this guy. And so they're out in the woods and they get attacked by, once again, what I thought was a zombie.
Yes.
Because during the other ritual, so the Japanese man's, we see him go to like a delivery truck that had crashed and there's like a dead guy inside.
Yes.
And so we know that there's maybe some relation there to the ritual he was doing.
The Japanese man does something.
Part of the ritual of the Japanese man at the beginning was he had these dead chickens hanging and he brought them back to life. So I think we're seeing that like, oh shit, he's going to bring this guy back to life.
Yes.
Yep.
And so then we hear the really ominous warning of or we're reminded of the warning of stopping the ritual was that everything on two legs will die, is what we were told.
Yeah.
Which is so good. Everything on two legs will die.
Yeah. And so they're attacked by this zombie brought back to life demon. I don't know what we want to call him. But he comes and attacks all the men.
Yes. And the ghost or the Japanese man, he's just watching. He's like back in the woods, just watching this all go down. And they're biting flesh off of faces. I think they do that too.
My gosh, the biting,
the nephew.
Yeah.
And I think at one point, those that are left notice the Japanese man watching.
Yes.
And are like, oh shit, let's get this guy.
Yeah, so we get this like kind of chase through the woods. And then I'm like kind of there's a point where they get to a cliff.
Yeah, and he's like hiding.
Well, and then I said, this is when I said like the Japanese, I just wrote him as Jay in my name, in my notes. Like Jay gets away, the dad is crying, and then the Japanese man looks sad, is what I wrote. Like he's like looking like genuine, like maybe he's sad for.
And so that's why I was like, oh shit, I think he's actually a good guy.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe there's something here. So yeah, there's kind of a chase, and then that's kind of where it ends. Like they start,
and then we go back to the house with the little girl and her mom and grandma.
Yes.
Right. And
well, we had seen also we then kind of got like a backpedal kind of showing us what happened with that man who then became the zombie. That there was he had gotten. I wrote something about like distracted driving. Oh, did he get hit by the shaman? Or
he died, right?
Well, right, but
yeah, he did. He got hit by the shaman.
He got hit
on the road,
and the woman in white was watching this all go down. So I'm like, what is happening right now?
But then but we go back to the house,
and the daughter's okay.
Or is she?
Yeah, she seems okay. She's like eating regular food and like it seems like all happy, but
that's short-lived.
It is.
Is it the shaman who starts to question? Who is it that first starts to question?
So this is when I think it's the shaman, because I believe he says the line, "The rat fell into the trap." And then the hot shaman has profuse bleeding from his nose.
Well, and it's not just bleeding; it's also just like his insides look like they were liquefied and are spewing out of him.
Then he starts vomiting.
When he interacts with the woman in white,
right,
is when he starts vomiting. So it's like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah, it's very intense.
Yeah, and so he calls the dad, the cop, to say, okay, I think we did the wrong thing. The woman is actually the one who's doing all of this.
Right.
The Japanese man was trying to help us.
Yeah.
And so we have to go now. Your daughter's not safe.
Yeah, and at this point, isn't he now the dad with the woman in white?
So yeah,
then
while he's on the phone.
Yeah, because he's coming home and then the shaman is behind him, not quite there.
That's right.
And so on his way home, he sees the woman in white and they start, they start talking. Because he's trying to, because again, we're like, oh, she's doing all of this, but she's trying to say, no, I'm helping.
And the conversation, like, at this point, I told Laura, like, just fucking tell me what you're trying to say. Like, it's all this shrouded, philosophical, like, what, would you just fucking tell me what's happening? Like, I would have been so frustrated.
Yeah. No, that's the thing.
Because we don't really learn anything.
She could have been more clear. Like, I feel like she's trying to say, no, I'm trying to help. But one thing she does say is, I set a trap for the demon.
Yeah.
Like, I set up a trap. I'm trying to help you.
Right.
All you have to do is nothing.
Yeah.
Until you hear the rooster crow 3 times.
Yes.
That's all you have to do is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear it twice. Mm-hmm. And she's like, don't go. Because you can tell that he's like, I've got to go home. Something is wrong. Mm-hmm. She's like, don't you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we've now seen, we like cut to the scene where we're now in the house again. And it's not, she is not well. She's eating, she's in the kitchen and just all the contents of their kitchen are out on the floor. And she's just eating them in the most disgusting manner.
Again, 10 out of 10
I've ever seen someone eat.
And clearly daughter was not okay. It kind of reminded me of the way that they made Jennifer eat things in Jennifer's body.
Mm-hmm.
The way they made the daughter kind of eat things in the fridge, like this ravenous beast.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And the mom and grandma are just watching her and like
the way they're watching her, like
it's like they're almost frozen. Like they just
like they're frozen and they're like scared, but also sympathetic. Like, I don't know, again, I feel like their acting of everyone in this movie was really good because it's like they're just kind of confused, probably. I feel like you saw the range of emotions.
Yes, you sure did.
As they're watching her.
And then this is what I wrote down. I was like, what to believe? What? Is she really good? I just couldn't.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I think kind of at the same time we see who was it? The guy who like spoke Japanese a little. The priest, yes,
yeah, because he spoke a little Japanese.
The priest has now wandered back into the forest into a cave,
and he's got this bandage from where the zombie had like eaten off his face.
Yep,
and there's this cave that's lit up, and immediately I was just like, oh god, don't do that.
Yeah, I was like, please don't go in there.
But he did.
Don't do that.
And who's in there?
And he's confronting the Japanese man. And he's like, I think you're the devil. And I want you to show yourself, your true form to me. And he had brought like a weapon, like a knife.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you get all of this at the same time.
Yeah, it's all happening at once.
It's all happening at the same time. So it's like, so one of these guys is good and one of these is bad, I think. And like it's all happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But before the third crow, the dad decides to intervene. Once again.
He keeps fucking this up.
Keeps messing this up. And he goes into the house and it's very quiet. He's like walking through. He's calling out their names. No one's talking back.
Well, because we had seen when we left them in the kitchen, didn't we see her glance at a pair of scissors?
Oh,
that was how that scene ended.
I forgot about that.
Was the daughter like stopped eating and glanced and saw a pair of scissors like within reach?
I forgot about that. Yes, that is how that one ends. Yes, she looks over at a weapon.
And this is happening while in the cave, like again, kind of like going back and forth at the same time. The Japanese man is just full on admitting, yep, I'm the devil.
Mm-hmm.
But you're kind of like, I don't know that I believe this yet. Like you're still really
and he toys with him for a bit. Because he's like, so you walked in here assuming I was the devil. And like, well, so he toys with him.
No, he really is.
So that was your belief. And like, well, so like he's messing with him for a while.
Yeah. And I think he says something about like the priest might be questioning, well, why the daughter? And he says, the Japanese man says it's, she's being punished for the sins of the dad.
Mhm.
Which is why I thought that tied in with the earlier
Yeah.
scene of him
His
in the car
adultery.
with,
Mhm.
right?
I mean, I think he did a lot of sins. I mean, he killed the dog, attacked the Japanese man. They definitely killed the zombie guy.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I don't think it was
he's
one
committed a
thing.
lot of sins.
Yeah.
So yes,
So
we find out
see-
he's
Yeah, we've got these two scenes now, and we kind of see them really close to each other. The one back at the house, and we just see blood everywhere in the kitchen.
yeah,
And that light that the kitchen was giving off is kind of like going in and out. It's just
Stroby.
very.
Mhm.
And do we see them?
The bodies.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Wait, yeah, do we see them?
I feel like we did. At
I
least
feel
like
like we
from
know
a
they're
distance.
dead.
Like we know. I think from a distance there were like piles, like 2
Mhm.
piles. And then all of a sudden this Japanese man in the cave, this was like so well done, the effects.
Yes.
That it blew my, because the other people would have done very poorly with this chance, but he like turns into I don't know, a demon.
A devil? Yeah.
Like he
a
turns
devil
into this
demon.
like
a devil, yeah.
and
like
you
a-
guys, it was so good.
It was almost
Like
like a troll-looking figure,
Yes.
and he had horns.
and that guy from The Ring, you know, the movie about the ring, what's his name?
Oh, Gollum.
Gollum.
Yeah. Very Gollum-y.
Yep. But it was really creepy.
It was. His transformation was really, and the eyes turned
the
red.
eyes. Yeah.
So he was the devil.
He
all
was the
along.
devil.
It was him.
Which is, well, you're like, and as the viewer, you're like having this realization of being like, that was a wild ride because I genuinely had no idea.
Mhm.
But then you're also like, okay, but wait, who the fork is the woman in white?
So I think she was a protector of
Was
sorts.
she?
Not a
Because
very
then-
good one.
Well, we also have another indicator that she might be sort of Jesus-y because we see she has the stigmata
Oh, that's
on
true.
her hands.
That's true.
So she's got those puncture wounds in her hand. So I think she is Jesus. The shaman. I also wrote that the shaman is evil.
Well, yes. So then at the very end, we see that the shaman shows up, and because remember at one point they went back to the Japanese man's house and the pictures were gone.
Yeah, everything was gone.
Everything was gone. Everything was taken down. The shaman has it all because he drops like the box of photos.
Right.
So it's all with him. And then he goes to take photos of the family
Yes.
that has now been killed.
That's right.
Yeah, because the Japanese man, when he was turning into a devil, was also taking pictures of the priest.
Yep. So here's the thing. Do you think the shaman was always evil? Or
Yes.
do you think he okay, that's interesting because I thought he legitimately was trying to help. And then when the spell went wrong,
Yeah.
or not the spell, the death hex went wrong, then like he was kind of intercept. And like you get the scene where he's driving his car and he has like a moment. So I thought maybe he started off as helpful and then through different means became into the help for the,
I honestly
for the devil.
don't know.
Yeah,
I think he was always.
I could
Then
go
what
either
was the
way.
death hex?
I think he was, because remember how the devil was like doing, I think he was just doing his alongside with him to like give him extra juice. Like,
Oh, right.
keep
They're
them.
both evil. They
Right.
were both trying to just.
So they were just doing it
That's-
together.
Oh.
I don't know though, you guys. I don't know.
I really think he could have been good and then turned evil. That's how I
think I really do want to
interpreted
watch it again.
in the movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do
I
too.
know.
It's so hard to tell because really just all of them were just lying all the time.
Everyone was sus.
So it was like I still don't really know what I believe happened, which is a good movie actually.
Right.
Yeah. Well, even at the end there, like, was the dad dead?
Yeah, that's what I wondered. Like, I wondered maybe he got killed. Like, he went in and
Yeah.
we didn't see it.
Yeah,
and
like
we didn't
him.
see the daughter again.
No.
So, like, we don't
either.
know. You know.
Do we see her again?
I thought, or maybe we don't.
No, I think
But we
just
do see him because he
Yeah.
gets stabbed, but he's like talking, like he's
Right.
like he's having his little bit, but like, he's struggling to breathe, but like
I know.
he could be alive. Like I actually don't know. Like, did he die at the end?
I don't know.
There's a lot of unknowns. This
Yeah,
movie
this
just,
is
it needs
this
a
is one that I'm
rewatch.
like, I think I need to watch it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
What
There
a
you
movie.
go.
This is a wild ride of a movie.
It really was like,
Mhm.
and even though it was long, by the time it got like going, I was fine. Like I didn't feel
Yeah.
like it was dragging at all after that. Maybe in the beginning it could have been like a little abbreviated, but
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
there's
I didn't
probably a
wanna-
few scenes they could have cut,
Right.
but by the time it got going at the end there, and honestly, I
Agreed.
think the beginning was good. Like, I think the beginning started as like a more classic horror movie.
It was a strong start.
Like, it was a good it was a strong start, but it was like I thought they were going somewhere else, and then the ending just like completely devolved into something else in like a really cool and like fast paced way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because also just like the bigger question of like, why this village? Did it have something to do with the zombied driver that we saw?
Mm-hmm.
That was like why this village got chosen? Like there, so there's a lot left that you're like, oh my gosh, why?
Well, and then even like why the people that were possessed, because like at the end we kind of get that like, oh, because of the sins of the father, the girl is being possessed. But then earlier I had kind of appreciated, they said like, it was like, why is it happening to her? Like, why is it happening to these people? And they were like, well, when you go fishing, you never know what you're going to catch.
That's true.
So this curse, this possession that's happening, this is just the devil reaching out, and you don't know who is going to be. So even like why they got possessed, I feel like we kind of get two different theories.
No, you're
in
very
the movie.
right. Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I kind of forgot about that line, and I really kind of liked that because a lot of times when bad things happen, we as humans tend to think, what did I do to cause this? Like
we want to know the reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of us tend to think, well, it's because of something I did, or it's because I was a bad person, or because of this other mistake I've made, which is interesting that we say that because it's almost like a way we try to comfort ourselves because we like to think that it could be prevented. Even though we're putting then the blame on ourselves, like it's because of something I did, it helps us feel almost more comforted because it's like, well, then in the future I can stop it from happening again. Whereas a lot of times really bad things happen randomly. And there's no rhyme or reason. It just happens.
True that.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like that it stuck with me. That like, why us? And it's like, it's just the devil going fishing for possessions, and then he'll just move on to the next town, right? Like, there's nothing special about the town,
which is like even more terrifying.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, at the end of this movie, evil just wins.
Yes.
We don't get a happy ending.
No, we do not.
It's just evil won.
Which I actually have to say, like, I really love when that happens, especially in a horror movie. Like, I know that's twisted of me, but
when they do it right.
Yeah.
And I think in this movie, we can say they did it right.
They did it very right. All right, well, I bet we're going to have a psych segment.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going to go with it, though,
I'm curious where we're going with this.
So just remember, she's not a real doctor. But these were not real demons, or they were. I don't know. But either way.
So, yeah, I kind of had a rough week. So my psych segment's a little light, actually. But I think this is more like philosophical. What's the study of? I should know this, as our father is a priest. But what's the study of theological? Of spiritual and religion. But let's start with some dream analysis because there were a few dreams that happened in the movie.
There were so many nightmares.
Yeah.
Like intense.
So the key ones that I am focusing on. There's the first one where there's the dream that the cop is having where he is being attacked by the man who's wearing the diaper, which we then learn is the Japanese man, who's eating raw animals and he has bloody eyes. So let's break that down a little bit. So bloody eyes can be a symbol of emotional pain and trauma or some inner turmoil. a struggle to see clearly, to see a situation clearly, and a spiritual awakening or transformation.
Interesting.
So bloody eyes can mean, so, and then a man in a diaper eating flesh. This is a lot of pieces. So we're going to talk them all through and then we're going to figure out how they go together.
That isn't specifically in your dream analysis book.
No.
Man in diaper eating flesh.
It's not quite.
That would be amazing if it was.
This book has everything.
So diapers symbolize infancy, dependency, or regression, kind of going backwards. Whereas an adult man could symbolize, maturity and masculinity. So that juxtaposition of maturity, masculinity, kind of being developed versus not being developed, that can indicate feelings of vulnerability or helplessness of the mature individual.
Okay.
And it can also be that this cop is maybe kind of reverting to some childlike behavior because of some stress or trauma that he's going through, which he's definitely going through.
Mm-hmm.
And then eating raw flesh really has a lot to do with some primal and animalistic urges that you have coming to the surface. It can also indicate aggression or violent tendencies, which we do see the cop has. I mean, you don't just kill a dog like that.
No, he has very strong, aggressive reactions.
Yep.
Especially for someone who's supposed to be a cop.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what this is meaning, and it's hard because depending on what you believe, maybe he was actually seeing the nature of the ghost, because turns out the ghost was actually the demon. But back when we were first doubting and we were thinking, oh, well, maybe they're just being, just totally xenophobic and prejudiced, judging this man who's done nothing. I was thinking that it could be that there's been some mistakes made by the cop, and he feels that his struggle to kind of see his life situation clearly is making him revert to some of this primal and infantile type state where he's not being a mature adult man making decisions for himself. He's just kind of being oh, well, I'm a child. I just am doing my childlike urges, or I'm just an animal. But he's really struggling with that. And but just, his current life stressors are making him revert to kind of some of this primal infant behavior. And that he really just feels out of control. But also some of these, when you put them all together, I think it could just be a warning sign. So maybe take out some of the psychobabble from it and just realize he's seeing these juxtaposition of ideas. He's seeing this man in a diaper eating flesh. All is very, very wrong. Maybe the dream is just a warning sign, something is bad. Get away, get out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that.
Mm-hmm.
So the daughter also, I think, is the one that dreams of the loud knocking. And that could signify really kind of impactful events are demanding immediate attention.
Mm-hmm.
So really what that's meaning is it was kind of a warning, a premonition to the girl, something big is, and it happens, I think, right before she gets possessed. Something big's about to happen. Be aware.
Yeah.
Even though what's she going to do at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dreams analysis.
Nice.
Interesting.
Honestly, they're always so accurate with the movie. I need to know how many times these writers actually do look up
I know, I would
dream
love to
analysis stuff. If there's going to be a dream that means something, if they look up what type of things to include in the dream. Or if it was just I don't know, a monster knocking at your door is scary. That's why we put it in the movie. You know, I'm so curious how many times the writers actually look into it.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, totally. So then as far as just standard psych, I'm not going to diagnose anyone. This is a bit above my pay grade with all this theology and spiritual and
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Jesus and devil. Like,
Yeah.
but one thing that I think is like the big takeaway in this movie is that who the heck can you trust, because everyone was lying. The
Mhm.
devil was lying. The woman in white was lying. Like, I feel like no one was actually just being honest about who they were. And that's why we have no idea still to this day what happened in
Yeah.
this movie.
I think you'd have to watch this movie like 5 times before you could like maybe really figure out
Yes.
exactly what everyone's intentions were.
And I mean, I think it's intentionally ambiguous.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know that we've talked much about lying. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Just
I don't
as
know
a
if we have.
concept. So, okay, psychologically,
Mhm.
and statistically, I think it was like, I forget what study I found somewhere, but it was like above 90% of people admit to lying. So basically everybody has lied.
Everyone's
Right.
lied.
Like,
And
if you don't
honestly-
admit to it, you're still,
Then you're
that's a lie.
lying.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're lying.
I was just going to say, those 10% of the people that say they don't lie, they're just freaking lying.
Just liars.
So why do people lie? Why did the demons and or the Jesus in this movie, like, why did they lie? So big part of why people lie is for self-protection. You're going to try to avoid either bad consequences, like, or punishments. You're going to try to avoid conflicts. And you do that from fear about like what's going to happen if people know the truth. So it's kind of that's the motivation for it. Also, you might lie to seek approval. So you might lie so that people think that you're better than you are, or, more successful than you are, so that people just think you're cool and they want to be around you. And like, yeah, they like that. You might also, this is kind of to do with self-protection, but also some avoidance. You would lie to just, get out of uncomfortable situations. So things like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't come to your party, I'm sick. It's kind of like a white lie in that situation, but you just don't want to be around the situation. And just to kind of preserve your self-esteem, you might lie because you feel badly about yourself. And so admitting the fact that you failed a class is not going to feel good. So you tell someone you got an A+ or something like that, just to kind of help yourself feel better. Even though you know it's a lie, you can almost even then start to believe it if you tell the lie enough. But what does lying do to you psychologically? It actually reduces the liar's self-esteem. So if you're someone that is lying, it's going to actually make you feel worse about yourself. So this devil should not do it. Although, is it devil's motivation to feel worse about himself?
Well, here's the thing. The devil never lies.
No, you're right. He doesn't. I was thinking about that.
He did, though. He pretended to be the sweet Japanese man.
But he never
told anybody that.
Oh, I guess he was
like, he never said.
He was either quiet, like just no response, like I guess you could say lying by omission, and not responding.
I feel like he just let people believe what they thought about him.
Yeah. And then if anything, I feel like, he was like, especially like that final scene, like if anything, he got off on it. He's like, yeah, tell me why you think I'm the devil,
Right.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
He wanted them to doubt themselves. Like,
I do feel the lying by omission is still lying. I personally feel like by not revealing who you are or by portraying yourself in a different light, that's still lying.
Well, here's the thing where it's like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, who are you? He was like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. That's the truth.
That is the truth. He just he didn't dispel their beliefs.
But it's also manipulative.
But it's like, oh, well, if he was like, yeah, I'm the devil. It's like, I'm not going to believe him.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, he kind of was very truthful.
I agree. Actually, I do.
All right. So, okay. Well,
the devil doesn't lie, actually.
Now, everyone else is not honest. Like the shaman directly lies.
The shaman, I still don't know where he lands.
Right. So, yes, other people do.
Oh, yeah.
And the dad lies, like the dad, telling the daughter, like, don't tell anyone this. And when you do that, you also have increased negative emotions. Like you're more nervous, regretful, guilty. uncomfortable or just shame. And then like, yeah, worried that people are going to find you out. You also just overall have less happiness or comfort or pride than people who lie less than you if you're a liar. And then you also just are preoccupied and stressed out about the lies. Like you kind of become focused on them because what'll happen if people find them out? Because your motivations for lying are exactly the worries that you then have after the lie has happened. It like makes it worse.
Well, because then it's like, then you have to build lies on the lies to keep the lie going. You know, it's,
So exactly. Now let's talk about what makes a good liar. Like why I think the people in the movies were good liars. So first is if you kind of sneak lies into the truth. So you have some truthful information in your lies, but then you like sneak like the deceit in there. That can make for a good lie, can make it hard for people to know. Also, if you keep it pretty simple, keep your lies simple. If they become too complicated, it's not going to be good. People are going to find you out. Also, if you make your lies plausible, so like make them realistic. Like you can't say something that's too crazy, or else it's no one's going to believe it. So I was thinking, oh shoot, and then I lost it. I was thinking, how could we tell who in this movie is genuine, who is telling the truth? And there's some things that you can try to do when you're suspecting someone of not being truthful that you can use to see, what their motivations are. But hold on one second because I lost it. Hold on. Where did it go?
And then we just have a 10-minute on-air silence.
Okay, so here's what I think, because I just could not figure out who was truth, like being like who they really were and who was being someone else. Here's what you can do to try to detect if someone is not being genuine about who they really are. First thing, look for some physical cues. Look for their eye movements. So of these characters, who was like genuinely looking at them and who was kind of avoiding eye contact or like gazing away? That might have been a good way to tell who was good and who was evil. I don't think we really could tell that now, or maybe going back we could. When we go back and watch this movie the second time, maybe we could look to see like, does the devil just stare at you but still lie by omission, kind of. Look for their facial expressions. So see some of those, like they're kind of like micro expressions they might have where, maybe they're smiling, like appearing that they're happy, but like you see kind of in their eyes, like, they're a little bit sad. And then things like if they are fidgeting a lot, if they're shaking, if they're just kind of seeming uncomfortable or turning away from you, that can be a sign that they're lying. So I'm trying to think, like the girl when she's throwing the rocks. What would that tell us? Is that telling us she's being genuine? I think that would indicate to us that she's not being genuine because it's a weird thing to do.
She's just trying to get their attention.
I guess so.
It's a weird way to do it. But then I'm thinking like at the end, right? And the shaman, when it's like, oh, we actually did the wrong person. It's the woman in white is the bad person. Like he's very frantic. Right. And like the way that he's telling like, oh, it was actually this. And like, well, like he's very like hyper. Frantic and like, more nervous while going through it. Like, I feel like that might be a good, like, tell.
That's my exact next indicator is if your speech patterns change. So if normally he had been that kind of cool, calm, collected guy, and all of a sudden he's like speaking all frantically, that's a good indicator that he's at that point lying.
Which he was, right? I feel like when we first meet him, he's very like calm, very like, oh, I detect this over here and like this over here. And
Also, just if they have some physical signs of being stressed out, like they're breathing heavy, they're blinking a lot, they're seeming, just more agitated or rushed, that can be a good indicator that they're lying too. So I still don't know who to believe in this movie or who not, but that's a little bit about maybe how you could try to suss that out.
So it was hard to tell in this movie.
So that's all the psych I got for tonight, but it was also a long movie, and so I figured we had enough to talk about without talking too much.
Yeah, similar for fun facts. I have a few, but I really wanted to find like an interview with the director or like some sort of background, but unfortunately, I don't speak Korean. Despite my best efforts. And like I even found an interview from like it must have been some sort of like art festival or something where he was talking, and it was in Korean, and then they had like a transcript of it, which I was like, that would be great. Then I can just try to do Google Translate. But the transcript was like a poorly translated English transcript. So like even reading the questions, I was like, well, maybe I can take like little things, but it was like nonsense. Like I couldn't understand what it was even going for. So I bet there's a lot of good info about this movie from the director or from the actors. It's just going to be in Korean.
Yeah, so if we have any Korean listeners, help us out.
Let us know. We're willing to do some translating.
We do have some international listeners, but
we have a German listener. If you're out there, they've been
so happen to also speak Korean.
I'm excited for the day when I don't think it's very long from now when it's going to be that, just live translations with AI can happen. So, and because we can do some of that now, but it's like you said, it's like poor translation. So I'm excited for the day when we can get to that and it's like good translations.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I do have a few fun facts, but not as many as I would have hoped for. So one is for the death hex, or we keep calling it kind of the exorcism, like dance ritual. It was shot just a one shot. They shot for 15 minutes straight using 6 different cameras.
Oh my God.
So this actor was just going for 15 minutes. And which like sounds maybe a little reasonable, right? No, think about 15 minutes.
That's wild. Like you would have to, as an actor, be so in it and just like really let yourself be absorbed by the character.
Yeah. It's very physical. It was a very physical scene. That
it was.
It was like a dance. Like there was movement, and like it was an intense movement with your body. Like I can't imagine 15 minutes straight of it.
No.
I feel like, Laura, you already talked about how there's a lot of theology in this movie, which I feel like is also worth the rewatch. But you definitely get like the idea was to blend kind of the folk religions of like Korea, Nepal, maybe even some Japanese religious with like Catholic faiths, which you have a shaman and a priest. Like,
yeah, because I tried to Google like what religion is this, and I couldn't figure it out. So
yeah, I think it's kind of just like a blend of different types of religions. So for like the Christian side specifically, because that's all I could find, there were the scenes that like alluded to it. Obviously, there was a priest, but one thing I saw was the woman in white throwing the rocks. Yeah. And kind of referring back to like he without sin cast the first stone, where it's like, yeah, she was without sin. She was a guardian. And so she was the one throwing stones, trying to get attention, which could have been a sign that she was actually good.
I love that.
I tried to, go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, because I just kept thinking about how weird that was that she was throwing the rocks. And I'm trying to like psychologically figure out why she would do that. But no, it's all about that. It's all about religion. That makes way more sense.
Yeah. No, I wish I would have had more time to go into it, because I saw multiple people say that all of the 7 deadly sins are shown in the movie.
I was wondering about that. So I'm glad. Yeah.
I saw more people say it, that it's shown throughout. I tried to look up like what it was, but I believe them. I believe it's in there. I didn't find all of them myself, but I could see it.
Because even the scene with her eating could be gluttony.
The gluttony and even with I think the cops at one point in the diner eating, like, there's gluttony, sloth.
And maybe that's why we got the sex scene in the car.
Yes.
To get lust.
Yeah, because actually in the beginning of the movie, I did notice like we see the dad eating a lot. Like a lot of his scenes in the beginning were when he was eating.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Okay, we have to rewatch it.
No, I feel like there's a lot in here. So another thing was the woman in white tells him he has to wait for it to crow 3 times, which could be a reference to like,
Third day.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, the Trinity.
No, I was thinking is it like denying Jesus 3 times?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what that was.
Okay.
Well, and then
to.
3 is so big in Christianity.
Right.
Like Jesus rose on the 3rd day. I was thinking something like that. So you gotta wait for the 3rd day, and yeah.
I bet rewatching it, maybe you'd see more things in 3s too.
Yes, I bet.
And then the final thing is just like the animals. Like it starts with a fisherman, so you get fish, you get goats, goats, not ghosts. You get both in this movie.
Yeah, you do get both.
Like locusts, like you get like Christian typical like animals throughout the movie.
Oh, we also had locusts.
Mm-hmm.
The one scene when the shaman is trying to get away, the locusts come at him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in the car.
Yeah, in the car.
So I feel like you definitely get the blend of the religions. I wish I could have seen more of the other ones. I was just able to find the Christian symbols because that's what I'm familiar with.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
I did see that no animals were harmed other than the worm at the beginning. I think the worm was actually put on a
poor buddy.
Okay.
That's the one.
I also didn't like that. I didn't like watching the live worm being stabbed by the fisher.
I mean, that's like a thing, though.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, one thing I didn't catch that, again, worth the rewatch for the 20th time. Apparently, the woman in white only collects upper body belongings, whereas the Japanese man collects lower body belongings, like shoes and like pants and stuff, whereas the woman in white takes like jackets and the hair clip. And so they each take things, but from different parts of the body.
Well, I'm thinking like, okay, because maybe that's symbolic of she's from heaven, the top half of existence, and he is from hell, the bottom half of existence.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there's, I don't want to call it like an alternate ending because it's not an alternate. It's more like an extended ending that they decided to cut, again, to kind of leave it intentionally ambiguous. But there was an ending where after all the stuff that we saw, you would see the Japanese man go and like see like another family and go like try to talk to a little girl. But then the parents call the little girl over and they're able to get away from him. And like they go and drive away. And then the shaman pulls up in like an SUV and picks up the Japanese man and they drive off together, making it clear that they were working together.
Oh, shit.
But they decided to cut that out to leave it just a little bit more ambiguous.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I like that. I mean, honestly, I really think either way would have been good. But I kind of like that we're left to be like, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like by the end we got that the shaman was probably a bad guy, either whether he became it or was it the entire time. Like, I feel like that they were working together, so I don't think they needed it. I don't think it would have been a bad ending, though.
No.
I think it could.
No. I don't think so. Honestly, I think either way could have been cool.
Yeah. So those are my fun facts for this one.
Nice. What an interesting one.
Yeah.
This movie was.
I want to rewatch it. I feel like we would catch so much more with a second, third watch.
Yep.
No, totally. Yeah. And it was just like, I loved the story because I feel like a lot of times in horror, especially if there's like gore or gruesome, like you lose the story for the punch line of the graphic scenes. Like you don't get as much of a story, but like this movie was all story and then just the like graphic effects were an added bonus because they were done so well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, I will be interested to hear where we're all at with this. So here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. Sort of 5 sips of soy sauce.
Ooh.
I would just drink soy sauce. I would. What do you give this movie? Oh man, I gotta think about this for a second.
I know, right?
Okay, I can go.
Okay, all right.
So I really liked this movie. I thought that cinematography wise, like it was really good. I love the story. I did feel it was too long though. So there was times I was thinking, okay, I wish this was shorter. But then I got super invested back in it. So do I think it's one of the ones that's like a classic I'm going to watch over and over again? Probably not. I do want to go watch it again, but I'm going to give it a solid 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah, so at first I thought 3, but then I thought, well, I tried to like remember some of my other 3s. And I think for me, I'm just going to bump it down just a notch. I'm at 2.75.
Okay.
Which,
2.75?
yes. Is that bad?
So low.
3
I thought this
know,
was
I don't
gonna be
know.
so good.
No,
This was
3
I was
for
thinking
me.
I was thinking like 4.25.
Oh,
For me, like this movie was so well done. I mean, the cinematography was beautiful. The
It was.
virtual effects made me look away a lot because they were so good.
Okay, I want to revise that. I'm going with my first instinct. I'm a 3.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
a solid
To me-
3.
To me, 3 is a very good movie. It's a must
Yeah.
watch and do it again.
Yeah.
It's just for me, it's like, I don't know. And maybe some of it was a little bit like the language barrier, so I couldn't see everything because I was so focused on the subtitles
Yeah.
that I feel like maybe watching it again, I might give it
Mhm.
higher. But for my
Mhm.
first watch experience of it, solid 3.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. Scenery
Mhm.
was really good. The virtual effects were really good. The story was interesting.
Acting.
The acting was
It was good.
incredible by everyone. And like second shout out to that little girl because her
Mhm.
acting was incredible in
Yes.
this. The cop dad was really good in this. Like the
Mhm.
acting all around was really good. Story was good. Like I maybe a little long, but I don't dislike long movies. Like I'm all
Right.
for a 90-minute movie, but I also loved like Dune. Like
Right.
Right.
I will sit for a 3 to 4 hour long
Mhm.
movie and be okay with it. I feel like I didn't see that many like flaws in it, honestly.
Mhm.
So for me, it was pretty. Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
like 4.25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's respectable. Yeah, for me, it was just like missing a little bit of the spooky magic. And it also could have been,
I get that.
I watched this movie when I was starting to come down with a cold.
Right.
I think that's why
Yeah.
some of the facts are a little fuzzy to me. So
Mhm.
it could have just been the experience of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's not too many faults that I have with
Yeah.
this.
Okay, so next time on Spooky Sips, we are going back to the theaters and we're seeing Heretic. It comes out November 8th.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, go to the theater, get watching, and get sipping. And we'll see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.